Windows Server Authentication Methods. Learning Objectives. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to define authentication and differentiate it from authorization. Explain why authentication is important. Identify the three main authentication factors. Describe Windows Server Authentication Methods. Explain the Kerberos v5 authentication process in detail. Explain anti-LM authentication and its weaknesses. Configure authentication policies via group policy. And apply best practices for securing authentication. What is authentication? Authentication is the process of verifying the identity of a user, computer, or service before network access is granted. Authentication answers the question, who are you? Authentication verifies identity. Authorization determines permissions. Authentication happens first. Authorization happens after authentication. Authentication uses usernames and passwords, Kerberos, and anti-LM. Authorization uses file permissions, NTFS, group policy, and ACLS. The key difference is that authentication proves who you are while authorization decides what you can do. Both are essential for security. Without authentication, anyone could claim to be anyone. Without authorization, authenticated users could access everything. Active Directory manages both through domain controllers and security policies. Understanding this distinction is fundamental to Windows Server administration and security. Authentication factors. There are three authentication factors. Something you know includes passwords, pins, and passphrases. Something you have includes smart cards, security tokens, USB keys, and certificates. Something you are includes fingerprints, facial recognition, iris scans, and voice recognition. Multi-factor authentication combines two or more factors. Examples include password plus smart card, or certificate plus PIN. Using multiple factors significantly increases security because an attacker would need to compromise multiple authentication methods. Single-factor authentication like passwords alone is vulnerable to theft, guessing, and brute force attacks. MFA is now considered essential for privileged accounts and sensitive systems. Windows Server supports all three factors through various authentication methods and policies. Windows Authentication Methods. Windows Server supports several authentication methods. Password authentication is easy and universal, but has weaknesses including weak passwords and brute force attacks. Smart card authentication is strong and hard to steal remotely, but requires a physical card. Used in government, banks, and military. Certificate authentication uses X.509 digital certificates. It is very secure and supports mutual authentication, but requires PKI and certificate authority setup. Windows Hello for Business is modern authentication using asymmetric cryptography. Supports PIN, face recognition, and fingerprint. Requires compatible hardware. Biometric authentication is convenient and unique to the user, but sensor errors are possible. Combined with Windows Hello. Each method has appropriate use cases. Password authentication works for general users. Smart cards and certificates suit high security environments. Windows Hello provides modern convenience with strong security. Choose methods based on your security requirements and infrastructure capabilities. Kerberos Authentication Overview. Kerberos is the default protocol in Active Directory, version 5. Kerberos is a secure network authentication protocol that uses tickets instead of repeatedly sending passwords across the network. The components are the client, which is the user or computer requesting access. The KDC, or Key Distribution Center, runs on the domain controller and contains the authentication service and the ticket granting service. The authentication service verifies identity. The ticket granting service issues service tickets. And the service server is the target resource like a file server, print server, or SQL server. Key benefits include single sign-on, mutual authentication, password never transmitted, encrypted communication, and fast authentication. Kerberos eliminates the need to send passwords over the network. Instead, tickets are used which have limited lifetimes. This makes Kerberos significantly more secure than older protocols. Kerberos is the foundation of secure authentication in modern Windows domains. Kerberos step-by-step process. Step 1. User login. User enters credentials at the workstation. Step 2. Contact as. The client contacts the authentication service on the KDC. Step 3. As verifies. The authentication service verifies the user's credentials. Step 4. TGT issued. The ticket granting ticket is issued to the client. Step 5. Request service. The user requests access to a resource like a file server. Step 6. TGS issues ticket. The ticket granting service issues a service ticket. Step 7. Present ticket. The client presents the service ticket to the target server. Step 8. Access granted. The server validates the ticket and access is granted. There are two types of Kerberos tickets. The TGT, or ticket granting ticket, is obtained at login and allows requesting further tickets. The service ticket grants access to a specific resource like a file server, SQL server, or Exchange server. This ticket-based approach enables single sign-on and secure authentication without password transmission. Anti-LM authentication. Anti-LM stands for Anti-LAN Manager. It is the legacy Windows authentication protocol, used when Kerberos is unavailable, in workgroup environments, or with legacy systems. The anti-LM process involves the client sending a request, a challenge being issued, a response being sent, verification by the domain controller, and then access granted. Anti-LM weaknesses include slower performance, no mutual authentication, less secure than Kerberos, vulnerable to relay attacks, and limited single sign-on support. Comparing Kerberos and anti-LM. Kerberos is the default in Active Directory, while anti-LM is a legacy protocol. Kerberos uses tickets, anti-LM uses challenge response. Kerberos has mutual authentication, anti-LM has one-way authentication. Kerberos supports SSO, anti-LM has limited SSO. Kerberos is more secure and faster. Organizations should migrate away from anti-LM where possible. Microsoft recommends disabling anti-LM in favor of Kerberos for improved security. However, some legacy applications still require anti-LM compatibility. EAP Extensible Authentication Protocol. EAP is an authentication framework, not a standalone protocol. It supports multiple methods and is used in VPNs, enterprise Wi-Fi, and IEEE 802.1x network access control. EAP methods include EAP TLS, which uses X.509 certificates for mutual authentication. This is the most secure method. PEEP is protected EAP, which wraps EAP in a TLS tunnel. Widely used for wireless. EAP TLS is tunneled TLS, flexible and supports various inner authentication methods. EAP Fast is flexible authentication by Cisco, using protected access credentials. EAP use cases include enterprise Wi-Fi, VPN authentication, and IEEE 802.1x network access control. The flexibility of EAP allows organizations to choose authentication methods that match their security requirements. EAP TLS provides the highest security with certificate-based authentication. PEEP offers good security with password-based credentials inside an encrypted tunnel. Choose EAP methods based on your infrastructure and security needs. Authentication policies in Windows Server. Authentication policies are located in Group Policy under Computer Configuration, Windows Settings, Security Settings, and Account Policies. Password policy controls minimum password length, password complexity requirements, maximum and minimum password age, and password history to prevent reuse. Account lockout policy controls the account lockout threshold, for example 5 failed attempts. Account lockout duration, for example 30 minutes. and reset lockout counter after X minutes. Kerberos policy controls maximum lifetime for service tickets, maximum lifetime for user tickets or TGT, maximum ticket renewal lifetime, and maximum clock skew tolerance. The default is 5 minutes. Smart Card and Windows Hello policy includes requiring Smart Card for interactive logon, PIN complexity for Windows Hello TPM requirements, and Smart Card removal behavior. Authentication policy silos were introduced in Windows Server 2012 R2. They restrict which users, computers, and service accounts can authenticate. Ideal for privileged accounts and high-security environments. These policies work together to create a comprehensive authentication security framework. Single sign-on and best practices. Single sign-on allows users to authenticate once and access multiple resources without re-entering credentials. Enabled by Kerberos in Active Directory. Benefits include improved user experience, reduced password fatigue, fewer password reset requests, and centralized authentication. Best practices. Use Kerberos whenever possible. Disable anti-LM where legacy support is unnecessary. Enforce strong password and account lockout policies. Enable MFA for privileged accounts. Use smart cards or Windows Hello in high-security environments. Keep domain controllers and clients time synchronized. And regularly review authentication logs for failed sign-in attempts. Implementing these best practices significantly improves your organization's security posture. Regular log review helps detect attacks early. Time synchronization is critical for Kerberos to function correctly. MFA provides an additional layer of security beyond passwords. Following these practices protects against common authentication attacks. CASNA Revision Summary. What is authentication? Verifying identity of a user, computer, or service. Default Windows Authentication Protocol. Kerberos v5. Legacy Windows Authentication Protocol. Anti-LM, Anti-LAN Manager. Which protocol uses tickets? Kerberos. Which protocol uses challenge response? Anti-LM. Which framework supports certificates and smart cards? EAP, Extensible Authentication Protocol. Which policy controls password complexity? Password policy. Which policy prevents brute force attacks? Account lockout policy. Which policy controls Kerberos ticket settings? Kerberos policy. What enables single sign-on in Active Directory? Kerberos. These are the key concepts you need to remember for the CASNA examination. Focus on understanding the differences between Kerberos and anti-LM. Know which policy controls which settings. Remember that Kerberos is the default and preferred protocol. Review these questions and answers to reinforce your understanding of Windows Server authentication. Kerberos requirements and key facts. Kerberos requirements include an Active Directory domain, as Kerberos is only available in a domain environment.